live. I'm so excited to be back with another Business Power Hour. We haven't done one of these in a while, but I really love them. And I really love bringing you guys like awesome, amazing, special guests to have good business conversations. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm really excited for the guests that we have for you guys. And we're going to have a really good conversation about business finances, bootstrapping your business, staying on your budget, making buyer decisions. We're going to share with you guys some of our favorite ways that we keep our business expenses low, some money saving hacks for you guys. And yeah, we'll talk about all the things. I'm going to go ahead and let our guests introduce themselves. Katie, you want to go first? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do, and then if you have a free gift, definitely let's shout that out too so they can make sure to grab that.
For sure. Hey, I'm Katie. I am a small business coach based in Cairo, Egypt. So I bring a little bit
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's like super. That's why it's kind of dark here, and I had to use all my fake lights, is because it's like 8 hours later than where you are. So yeah, I kind of bring in a little bit of that, like, hey, I quit. Well, I got laid off from my 9 to 5 and built my business when I saw the writing on the wall. I started building my business, and then I got laid off, and I was like, screw it, I'm going to move to Egypt because I've been here a couple times. So I bring in some of that, like,
oh my gosh, that's amazing. So you moved there after you got laid off from your job.
Yeah, it's fun. I love it. I love living here. So yeah, I love working with female entrepreneurs that are just getting started, who are a little bit like me, a little bit chaotic, a little neurodivergent, maybe, whatever we want to call it. I mean, I think we all kind of are at this point in the year 2024. We're all a little crazy up here, but I really like taking out the overwhelm and just helping women make money, because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I always say, like, people talk about entrepreneurship is so risky, right? But I also think like not having the skills to be able to generate your own money for yourself, like that's also risky, right? Because you're relying on other people to give you work.
Right. And I mean, it's just like, for me, it's like, you don't have to be chasing that like 10K a month or whatever, like 5K if you're at a day job, or, you know, you were a stay-at-home mom and now your kids are like in school or whatever. Like, I have a client who was like, hey, I'm making just as much as if I would be if I was working part-time, but I get to be home and actually do something interesting. So it's like, you never know what's going to happen. You just don't know what's going to happen.
It's just nice also if you want extra money to be able to do something, right? I got a really nice email like last year from someone that had been in one of my programs, and she was like, I just want to let you know, like, I used one of the processes we have in the mastermind, like your flash sale process, and I made $300, and so I could sign my son up for hockey. Right. And so it's like just being able to do stuff like that. It doesn't, I'm with you. It doesn't have to be a $10,000 a month. If that's your dream, like, I think you can definitely get the skills to do that as well. But for a lot of people, just having the ability to even make, especially right now, the way everything is and everything's so friggin' expensive, to make a couple hundred extra bucks, like, which is definitely more than possible for you guys. So anyway, I'm excited to talk to you. Do you have a freebie you want to shout out?
Yeah, I did a little summer get your shit together. I swear a lot. So it was just one little action step or content prompt for people to take in their business each day. Just like really easy things, like go clean up your bio, make a piece of content like this, edit who you're following, like, and it eventually built up into just creating a little mini offer over 30 days, just with like zero stress, zero overwhelm. Like, everybody who comes to me ends up being these like overthinkers, over planners. And it's just like, the planning stage is great. We love that, but you actually have to execute.
So if you guys are like at the point where you're like, I know I need to be doing more of my business, I need to be taking action, but I don't know what to do, and should I do this, should I do that, you can go get Katie's freebie and she'll just tell you what to do every day.
Exactly.
I love it. And then what about you, Cierra? You want to tell everybody who you are, what you do, and then if you have a free gift you want to shout out, we can do that too.
Sure. So my name is Cierra Lueck. I am in Nashville, Tennessee, just a little bit south of Nashville, and I have 5 kids. My oldest is about to
Wow.
be 18 next month, so mom life over here as well. And I've been married for 20 years. My husband's an Army veteran, and one of our kids had some really severe health issues, which him going through all of that and me seeing him go through all of that and me realizing that I needed to give him a reason to live for because it was really painful for him when he was 11. That's when I chose to start my business. And so I was a stay-at-home mom before that. I was doing the homeschooling, watching the kids while my husband was at his Army job. And then I started pursuing my business because I wanted my kids to see that they could pursue their dreams and actually make them happen. And I wasn't successful right away. It took me a few months, and then I joined a mastermind, and within it was a 10-week mastermind, and within 9 weeks, I got my first client there. And I was stupid excited. It was like a $1,900 check. It was a two-pay for a $3,800 offer. It was a $1,900 check. And well, it wasn't actually a check. Everything's online now. But I was just like, I can do anything, And from there, so my client got really great results within 2 weeks. So I raised my prices, and my next client was $5,800. And then I continued to raise my prices as I was working with people and getting them results. And so my first month was $1,900 collected. My second month was $7,700. My third was $12,000. My fourth was $20,000. And in my first 6 months of business, I collected $100,000, and it completely changed my family's life. Yeah, and since then, that was 4 years ago. Since then, our family's life has just been completely different. My husband's out of the military now. He didn't have to get a job because of my business. And my teenagers, I have 3 teenagers. They all work for my company too, which is kind of that's for me, that's living the dream, is getting to work together as a family and create the lifestyle we want. So as far as freebie goes, I have this really cool thing. I love to give it away for free because if you want to see results immediately, you want to go get a tangible result now, like a microwave win, I have this template. It's 80 different viral questions that you can go post into a 30 to 40,000 member group, and you can get immediate traction with your target audience. And so I have a little training on that, and it comes with 80 different viral question templates that you can literally just copy paste into a group and get immediate traction. So that's the thing that I love to share with people because it gets you an immediate win, and it lets you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, I think social media too is all about just starting conversations and having conversations and meeting different people. And a lot of us don't know how to do that. So that's awesome. So if you guys want to go start some great conversations online, but you're like, I don't know how to talk to my people or how to post things where people get responses, I would definitely go grab that. I see a few of you guys watching live. If you have questions about business, finance, about saving money, about buyer decisions, or anything like that, put it in the chat and I'll slip it into our conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to pick these ladies' brains. So I'm curious, we're talking about bootstraps and finance for your business. When you guys first started your business, what was something you did? I want to hear one of your scrappy moves you've done, at the beginning phases of your business when you were just getting started. And it's for most of us, it's pretty critical to be lean. It sounds like probably you guys didn't have tons of startup funding or anything either, right? So when you were in that phase, what's a scrappy move you made to kind of do a bootstrap move or save money or be able to actually start your business when you don't have funding?
I was going to let Katie go first, but I'll go ahead and jump on
I'm just
this
going to
one.
let you guys jump in. So everybody just jump in.
Yeah. For clarity, this is the first time I've ever been on one, I think, with 3 people. So really
it's
neat
a little
dynamic.
awkward to get everybody to talk, and we want to make sure everybody talks, and but then we've got to fill the gaps, but we'll get it. We're getting it. It'll be fine.
So when I first started my business, the mastermind that I was in, they showed me a calendar system, and they showed me a form system that would store all my forms in one place. And those ones cost less than $30 a month. And those were the only tools that I used in my business when I first started out, that and Google Drive, which is free. And so Google Drive, it is amazing what you can do on that. I still like Google Drive is like a crux of my business. Like I pay for G Suite now because I have a website. I made $750,000 in my business without a website. So if you believe that you have to have a website to have a business, then you do. But if you believe that you don't have to have one, you actually don't have to have one to make a lot of money. Yeah. And so that being said, though, Google Drive is like, you can do everything. Like you could deliver an entire program on there. You can host, like, you don't even have to have Zoom, although Zoom has a free side of it as well. I did Zoom for free. I use that for free to do my calls. I used Google Drive to deliver documentation to my clients. And I would do that with Google Docs and PDFs. Google also has Google Forms, so you can have people register for things. I still use Google Forms sometimes for my events. Like I flip-flop between my CRM form filler router and Zoom fill out. Like they have a form that you can fill out on Zoom, and then on Google Drive, they have the Google Forms or whatever. So I flip-flop between those. But Google Drive, like you can do so much with Google, like the G Suite of products, and they're free. Like you can build a multi-six-figure business with Google Drive.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too about just not letting your tech get really, really bloated. We're always auditing my stuff too, where I'm asking the team, like, are you guys using this? Like, are you using it $30 a month's worth? Like, because I want to make sure like we're not signing up for things and then forgetting about it. Right. And it's really easy to just have a really bloated tech stack where you start signing up for all these different subscriptions and all these different things. So I think being clear about like, what do you actually need to do in a business? You need to deliver a product and that solves a problem for people. And you need to be able to let people know about it. Right. And just then it's like, what are the simplest ways to do those things when you're just starting? Like, what are the simplest ways for you to let people get to know you and tell people about what you do? What are the simplest ways to then deliver like your solution to that problem? So I love that you're like, okay, I'm going to just keep everything on Google Drive. We live on Google now.
Yeah, I have 3 terabytes of storage now on Google, and I literally store everything there. I mean, we do have an external hard drive where we also store, because we do, like, I actually have some of my higher level clients, like they fly into Nashville and we do like videos and images. And so I have like tons of videos stored on Google Drive, and I haven't even gotten to a terabyte yet. Like, it's just like, it's so much storage. And so Google's amazing. It can grow with you, and it's not very expensive once you grow.
Yeah, we use G Suite as well for a lot of stuff. And then what about you, Katie? What's like a scrappy move like you've made to keep your budget lean?
Well, it's not so much keeping my budget lean, but this is like how I started out is I was traveling to Egypt or China like quite regularly for some other stuff. And this is so basic, but I would just buy stuff for cheap and then sell it back home for more money and make money that like this is very, very like, oh, I was partnered, but I didn't have any kids. I had a 40-hour-a-week job, but it was like, sometimes you can't look at it from like the saving money perspective. Like you have to make money, and that's what I knew how to do. Like I know what people like, and I had a network, and I'm very loud. Like before I was a business person, I was always somebody like really loud with like a social media following, like way back to like the LiveJournal MySpace days. So I know a lot of people. So
oh my gosh, I just had like a flashback.
Right?
I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Sorry. So I just got, I just knew what people liked from either Egypt or China or whatever. And it's just like, I just saved money that way. And I was hosting in-person events. I have a really weird backstory, but I saved money. And then like you guys said, it's just like keeping it lean. Like Google Suite does a lot. Like, do you actually need Zoom? Like Google Meet works just as well as Zoom right now. Like we just kind of use Zoom by default because it like the pandemic, like we just went to Zoom, but Google Meet's a thing. And then also just, this is like my biggest trick right now is it hurts, but pay for the year in advance. For your email marketing, for Canva, for any of that stuff. Like, yes, it sucks to put that money out there, but you usually save at least like 20%. So If you can kind of get over that mentality of like, oh, I'm forking over, you know, like 400, 500 bucks. Well, you're going to come out ahead in the long run if it is actually something you're going to use. And that I think helps.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. And I didn't even realize like how significant those yearly discounts are until my bookkeeper actually like totaled all of our monthly subscriptions and like how much we would save. And she was like, it was like $1,500. She was like, if you go switch all these subscriptions that you have to yearly, she's like, you'll save $1,500. And I was like, oh, duh. Like I just had always been on monthly and my business grew fast, right? So it was just kind of like one of those situations where we're like kind of like always running really fast and I hadn't taken the time to even think about it, that all of those old subscriptions were still on monthly. And so when she pointed that out, I switched. And then I also liked what you said about like, you're like, I was like selling furniture and making money. And I think like one of the things that's important for you guys to realize is like businesses need funding. Like you have to fund them. And if the business isn't funding itself, like you have to find a different way to, it has to be a lot of money, but it has to be some money. Like you can't have a business with no money. Like it needs some money and it needs some funding. So whether that's like, I've had people do like Uber Eats. We've had people sell like furniture to join the mastermind. Like I had someone like she redid like 4 dressers or something and sold them so she could get the funding to join our mastermind for a year. Like you got to start thinking about it like a business, right? And businesses need funding. So if you're not going to go out and get investors, then it's like, okay, I have to come up either cutting your personal budget. That's something I did when I started is I just cut all my personal spending down as much as I could, where like I stopped going out to eat. I used to go to brunch all the time. I stopped going to brunch. I like cut my personal expenses down. I got a roommate. I like just was like, what else can I do? Because I knew the more kind of cash I could have to funnel towards the business, like the more resources I would have to be able to grow it. So I think that's a really, really good point about being willing to do things outside your business. If your business you don't have the skills to make money in your business yet, what skills do you have where you can go get that funding somewhere else? And that's like, I think that's a really scrappy boss move. Megan has kind of an interesting question. She said, has anyone on this panel had their income go down significantly after making 6 figures? How did you cut things back until your income picked up? So I always teach in the mastermind, like I think it's pretty normal for most people's income to fluctuate, right? So we've definitely had significant growth periods in my business where it's like every month was bigger and bigger. We've had seasons where it's plateaued, where it's pretty just consistent month over month. And we've had times where it was like, especially when we were really relying on the big launches, like our monthly would go like up and down like crazy all the time, depending on if we were launching or not, right? So have you guys had like down times in your business where your income's going down? And like, what are the first kind of things you look at when you have those dips?
So I actually, last year, I decided to, at the beginning of the year, treat myself with a mommy makeover because I was done having kids and I did all of that.
I love it. She's like, I'm getting my groove back.
Yeah, for sure. And also, there's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. He's a plastic surgeon and he talks about how people get work done, but they haven't done the inner work. And so they still feel like they're the same person even after they get the work done. Yeah, and so that happened where I was like, I can't believe I spent this much money on myself. I could have spent that on my kids, on my family, on this, on that. And so I had a lot of inner work where just like my mindset was like so low. My self-value like dipped down really low and went back to like that little girl who didn't feel valuable. And then in the same time, I had a lot of like resentment towards my husband for not working because I felt like all the burden was on my shoulders. And then I also, my mama passed away last year and she was on hospice and it was a really slow process. And so that just like kind of messed with my mentality a lot. There were so many things that we went through and our business actually at one point last year dipped down to only 4,000 collected. And you've got to realize like our expenses for the business are like with team and with SaaS products and with everything are like between 12 to 15,000 a month. And we dipped down to 4,000 collected that month. And so that was like terrifying. I had to use credit. I had to use all of our savings. I had to like get all of that and use it. And And I just took this moment and I kind of flipped the script, because one of the things I realized, and this was years ago, I used to do the selling of stuff too. I'm actually really good at it. So my dad's a haggler, has always worked at pawn shops.
I
He
love
just
it.
loves it. And so I learned that skill from my dad. So I used to buy furniture. And then when we would move, I would just sell the furniture and buy new when I got out to where we were going. And one of the things I realized, though, is that when we get down to the part where we need money, like desperately need money, it is so much easier to make more money than it is to try to cut back on things.
Yeah.
And so I just decided that I was going to open myself up to any kind of offer, whatever was possible at the time, which actually kind of turned my business. I was only doing consulting, and I turned my business. I started doing some done for you work. So I think I sold that next month. So I went from 4,000 to 12,000 to 23,000 the next month. And I just like built myself back up. And that was like October, November, December is like, I just built myself back up and sold more things and just went out there and made more offers, and like was very strategic about making sure that I was actually opening myself up, that if somebody wanted to pay me for something that wasn't typically what I do, I was just like, cool, I'm going to do it. You know, it's like, hey, you want me to build out your lead magnets? Hey, you want me to like do your content for a month? Like, hey, you want me to like come in and train your team? Like whatever it was, anything. I even did a paid workshop, and I sent out something to my email list, which wasn't very, you know, it's not as big as I would like it to have been at that time, because that's not where I get the majority of my sales. The majority of my sales come from Facebook. So that's where I spend most of my time and energy. But I like did everything I knew to do, because we all have so many things that we could be doing. We just usually won't pick one and stick with it. And so I just did, at that time, I was just like, it's easier to make more money. So I'm just going to make more money. And I also took the pressure off of my husband, because like, why should my business not grow because my husband doesn't want to work? Like that's not on him that my business isn't growing. That's on me. And I think it was because I was afraid. I had this fear of just like losing everything and not having anything as a backup plan. And so I was putting all that pressure on my husband, and it like my business being successful or unsuccessful has nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And everything to do with me.
Yeah, I think the pressure off piece is huge. And I coach people on this almost freaking weekly in the mastermind, I feel like, where they have built up so much pressure on themselves and so much pressure on their business. And I always say, like, especially the people that come to me, like they're usually under 6 figures. And I'm like, you have a little baby business. Like, think about if you had a little, like babies need nurturing. They need like love. They need like good energy. And then we put all this like pressure on the business, like, why aren't you supporting me yet, baby? Like, why aren't you paying my bills? And I'm like, that is not the energy in which things expand. Like, that is not, like, things grow through nurture, right? So when you're able to take that pressure off of like, you know what, maybe my husband doesn't need to get a job, or maybe this doesn't need to be different, or wherever you're creating that pressure in your business, if you can take some of that pressure off, right? This is why I'm big on like, get a side hustle, like pick up some VA work, like get some other money coming in, or like you're saying, like put other offers out, even if it's something where you're like, but this isn't the business model I want, or I know like I don't want to be doing what I want, or I don't want, it's like, you don't have to do things forever. It's not a life sentence, right? And it's like, if you can get that money coming in, then you can take the pressure off. And I always think, I'm always like, once you have money, it's so easy to make money. Like, this has been the biggest, like, I think kind of mind fuck for me, like going from somebody who grew up in poverty and lived in poverty till I was like 30 years old, like, and was pretty significantly broke all of the time, to someone that now runs a multiple 6-figure business. And it's just like crazy to me when I think about how hard it was when I was broke. It felt impossible to make money, and it was just so hard. And now it's like, there's so many ways to make money, and it just gets easier and easier, which is crazy. But you can take advantage of that energy, even if you can get a little bit of money coming in. It's like easier. It sounds like so weird, but I swear it works. Like, if you can get a little bit of money coming in, even if it's a one-on-one client or something you know you don't want to do, or you're building websites, or you're answering customer service emails, if you can get a little bit of that money coming in, it takes that pressure off. And then I think it just gets easier to have those genius ideas, right, to make money.
Well, also, like, selling something small. Like, if you haven't made a sale in a really long time, just go sell something for $15. Like, you can sell something for $15. Like, your best friend will buy from you. Your mom will buy from you. Like, go sell something small for $15. And it just, like, it gives you that, like, that energy of selling and receiving money. and it just opens you back up to the flow. And so it's like, if you can sell something for 15, okay, well, now we can do something for like 100 or maybe 300, or then we go to 500, and then we go back up to our higher ticket offers or services or whatever into the thousands. Like, just get yourself back into the flow of receiving money, because if you've, for whatever reason, shut yourself off, like I did last year, you know, you can just pick it right back up.
Yeah. Those smaller offers too are so good for figuring out the messaging, right? So you can, if your big offer is not selling and it's hard to sell, it's like, try something else. Like, I see so many coaches, like they'll be like, this is my thing and this is my offer and this is my package. And then it's like, well, that's not working. Like, nobody's buying that. So like, if nobody's buying that, like, sell something different. Don't keep selling the thing nobody's buying. Yeah. Sorry, Katie, what were you going to say?
No, there's just like, there's no pride. Like, you just can't, you have to swallow your pride sometimes. Like, I know, like, we all want to like have these like lofty goals and achievements and whatever, but it's like you're saying, like, all right, I can't sell something for $500. I'll sell something for $50, whatever. I'll go do Uber Eats. I'll go do this, whatever. Like, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do. Like, it's just kind of like a human thing. And I think people like, oh, well, I'm going to run my own business. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to be my own boss, money, freedom, whatever boss babe shit is, you know, going around Instagram, you know, at that moment. It's like, it's not all unicorns and flowers. Like, and that's okay. It's fine. Suck it up, because eventually you'll get there, you know? And I think it's such a mindset thing, because for me, it's like, instead of like chasing that like month goal, year goal, whatever, I just decided what my minimum was going to be every month. Like, this is my minimum I'm going to make in my business, and I'm going to do what I have to do to get that to that minimum, right? Like, this is my living expenses. And also, speaking of bootstrapping, that's half the reason I moved to Egypt. My rent is $375 a month. Like, I was laid off from my job. I moved here because I knew my internet would be $20 a month. Like, I know that's like a little extreme for people just starting out. You may not want to, you know.
You got to find your own version of moving to Egypt. I think we can all, maybe we'll all move to Egypt. I don't know.
For sure. And then it helped that I, you know, found a husband here and all that. But like,
move to Egypt and get a husband, you guys.
They're great. He's great. We love him. But it's just,
no, we're not all going to move to Egypt. But even if you're not going to move to Egypt, you can think like, what would be your version of that, right? Where there's like maybe places you,
well, like you said, you get a roommate. You get a roommate. You don't go to brunch. Like, for me, I like being bougie, and so I can be bougie here and go out for lunch for $10 for a really nice high-end lunch, because that's the trade-off I made, you know. And it's just like, you have to figure it out. You have to know your numbers, and you have to really just decide what's worth it to you and what's not. Like, and just eat some humble pie every once in a while. I know it's not what people want to sell on. You know, it's hard to sell people on, like, you know, just suck it up and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's not like a really popular thing to say, but it's just, it still beats the hell out of going to a 9 to 5 to somebody.
You do have to be able to do that as a business owner, though, because like Cierra is saying, like, I have $14,000 of expenses that go out every month. Like, I don't really have the option, if our revenue dips, to sit on my hands and freak out about it. Like, I have to figure out a way to bring that revenue in, right? And so as an entrepreneur, like, there is that pressure you don't have as an employee. Like, nobody's going to cut you a check, and you have to be able to get in that mindset of like, I can make shit happen when I need to. Like, I have other options, right? I can sell other things. I can do services. I can do whatever. And like I'm saying, the revenue going up and down is normal. Like, that story Cierra shared, I think, is so important to talk about when we talk about the sustainability of businesses, because the reality is we're in human bodies having a human experience running these businesses. People are going to die, like, in our lives. Like, people are going to get sick. Like, these are real things that most of us are going to have happen while we're running businesses. And it is hard, depending on what stage of business you're in, it's very hard to just keep your revenue up while you're having like kind of personal life crisis, right? So I think doing things like
especially if like the weight of the business is completely on your shoulders and you haven't become really great at delegating to team. Like that's a huge piece. Like I know you keep talking about how amazing your team is, and I just like I love it because as long as the like entire weight of the company or the business is on your shoulders, it is going to be dependent on your energy. So you're just going to have dips that you have to deal with. I love
if you're not used to outsourcing,
Katie said about the mindset.
Yeah, if you're not used to outsourcing anything either, and you wait till you're in crisis to try to bring someone on to help you, it's going to be so hard. That's why I tell people, like, get a VA for an hour a week, like, just so you know how to outsource things and you figure out how to make SOPs and you start getting those systems up. And that way, if the business picked up, so one of the things that happened to me that was a nice problem to have, but also still really stressful, was like our business did like huge jumps. Like, you know, it went from like 70,000 to 150 to 200 to 230, like fast. And I did not have the systems in place or the skills to delegate or anything. Right. And I just felt like we were all drowning all the time. Right now we have like so many SOPs and so many systems and so much stuff. And like we can onboard people. If somebody needs to go off of my team and take a different job, like we can put someone in that spot. Please don't leave, team. but whereas before it was like I have to tell everybody how to do everything because nothing's written down and the passwords aren't anywhere and there's no like guide telling them how to do a task. I have to physically tell everybody how to do everything, and it was so overwhelming. So I think talking about finances, like it is important to think about the sustainability, and if you were to have some type of something come up, like what do you need in place to be able to hand things to people? I think that's a really, really good point. I had a question I was going to ask you guys, and I just lost it. Hold on. I just went on a new medication, and one of the cool side effects is like my brain just like turns off. I was going to, okay, it came back. I know it always comes back, like, but it's just like for 2 seconds, it's like there's nothing happening. So I wanted to ask you guys about how you decide like what to buy, right? Because I think the hard thing about having a business, first of all, I always say there's like a little money gremlin on your shoulder because the business always wants more money and there's always more things you could be spending money on, right? And it's one thing for us to sit here and be like, oh, like, you know, be scrappy and like be lean, but you can't not buy anything. You have to buy some things, right? So how do you decide in your guys' business, how do you make those buyer decisions about this is going to be a good place to put money in the business versus I don't really need that right now, we can do it without it? How do you guys kind of go about that? Because I think one of the challenges in this space is like, I always say, as soon as you start a business, everybody's going to be coming around you with their hand out, like trying to sell you stuff. So how do you guys navigate that in your businesses and make those buyer decisions?
For me, 100% is this going to save me time? Like, what is the actual time I'm going to save by doing, like, that's the first thing, because it's just like, or how much money is it going to make me? What is my actual ROI? Like, I go look at like, okay, maybe I want to run Facebook ads or something like that, but what do I actually need to do that? Do I need a course? Can I just hire somebody? Like, it's not like one specific set of questions, right? It's just like, it's either going to cost me my time or my money. And which one do I want to get rid of? And right now I'm at a place in my business, it has to save me time. Like, I'm like, I can afford to do things, but it's just, I have to be really real with myself. I check my numbers. Can I actually afford this, or am I putting it on a credit card, or am I, going to take a hit on the income or whatever? Like, if I can't afford it, I can't afford it. Like, that's just that, regardless of whatever is being promised, right? Like, you have to be so thorough. And like, for me, as somebody who's very ADHD, I don't let myself buy something the day that I see it. Like, hell no. I don't care what early bird offer, expiration, incentive, FOMO tactic they're using, which, no shade. Like, I get it. It's marketing. It's fine. But I can't do it. Like, it's just because I know, like, I'm always craving that answer. Like, it'll just make it easier. This will be the one solution to rule them all. And it's like,
yeah, that's a really good point, I think, for you guys listening too, is like to ask yourself, when you look at purchases you've made that didn't pay out, or purchases where you're like, that maybe wasn't the best thing I bought, I would like look at what about that like drew you in, and like where are you kind of susceptible to the marketing thing. Like, I had this happen where I made a succession of I say now, like pretty bad investments. And when I look back, all of the people I hired were like, oh, we have this proven process for scaling and step-by-step scaling. And I realized it was really because I didn't believe I had the knowledge or that I could grow the business past where we were at, right? And I was really like feeling a lot of doubt and feeling a lack of confidence, right? And then it was like when I was in that state, I was very susceptible to the marketing of like, we have the proven process, the step by step, blah, 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 like come into the room. And like, I would just be like, okay.
Well, it's
right.
the thing
And so
like buying
looking at those things and learning where you're susceptible, I think is really powerful. Katie's like, I can't do the first day deals. Like I'm going to make a bad buyer decision. I'm like, when my confidence is low, that is not the time to make big investments in the business. And then what about you, Cierra? How do you make?
I was going to say, you just said that the confidence being low and not making decisions in the business. So I know when I'm on my period, that is not the time to fire people. Yeah. Because I get really intolerant and I'm like, I need to not talk to people right now, certain people, because I like when I get back in that higher energy, I'm like way more open and I'm like, oh yeah, no, that was happening because of this reason. It's fine. We'll fix it this way. But like when it gets that time of the month, I'm like, yeah, no, can't talk. So my favorite lesson that I think I've learned on the financial side when it comes to purchasing is not to make long-term buying decisions off of temporary finances. I got this really good advice from my very first mentor. He said to look at the revenue that you've generated over the last 3 months. So not like the month or the middle of the month that you're in, but the last 3 months prior to that. Look at the collective revenue that you've had from those 3 months and divide it by 3, and then make future decisions based off of what the average is, because that gives you a more realistic perspective of what you'll actually be able to sustain and maintain as you move forward. And that's for people who are like newer to their business, because if you don't have like a financial history that's years long, like most of the bigger companies do, you have to look at more of the temporary stuff, which is like the last quarter is like, that's temporary. That's not necessarily going to be that way forever. And so making those decisions that are long-term based off of the average of the last 3 months, I think is a really good piece of advice that you could do right now. Just go look at your numbers right now. And then just not getting yourself sucked into something that is going to be a really big buying decision that future you is going to have to pay for. But I think also going back to what Katie said earlier about like the way that I refer to it is setting standards. So like she called it like, I don't remember if you said, I was thinking of like floor and ceiling, like what's your floor revenue, what's your ceiling revenue and stuff like that. That's the way that a lot of people verbalize it. But like every time we raise our standards, so these are my expenses that I choose to have. Okay, so this is the revenue that I choose to have as well. So we just make it happen. Like that makes it really easy to make those decisions as we move forward. So I'm actually in the process of raising my standards right now for my team and what team members I have and who I'm delegating to, so that it's not as much on my shoulders anymore, which means that I now have a new standard for the revenue that has to come in. So now I've built a new model that allows us to bring in those new clients, which means that when I go out and do my marketing, those clients are going to be there. And I think one more key thing that I think is really important is decide first and then look for the thing, rather than you see the thing, but you didn't actually decide that you wanted it beforehand. Yeah. Like, so in your thinking time, you're like, I wish I just had some better stuff for copywriting. And then you see a copywriting offer. That's probably a good solid decision to go with, is like, then you see that. But if you weren't already thinking that and then it pops up and you're like, that's a neat idea, maybe I'll try it. Like that's already going to be like that shifty energy, you know?
I just had this happen. Like somebody pitched me in the DMs the other day and she was very nice. I had posted on Facebook, like kind of asking for a referral. And she was like, oh, I do that. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, tell me about your offers. I was having a conversation. And the price, I just told her flat out, like, I don't think I'll get the ROI on that price point because it's a very high ticket thing. And I just didn't see in my business where we were going to make a return that big for what she was teaching. Right. And I was like, but I'll keep you in mind, or if you have something like lower ticket, like, I'd be interested. And she said to me, she's like, yeah, but if you implement this, you'll have a better customer experience and you'll make more money. And I was like, I already have a great customer experience. I have a membership with like a 80 something percent retention rate with almost no churn. Right. And so, but I was like thinking like, gosh, you know, if I were newer and somebody said that to me, it does make sense. Right. Where it's like, oh, they would have a better customer experience. You'll make more money. But you've really got to evaluate like, how much more money and like where is that going to come from and like what are the sales and what's the actual earning potential there, right? Because I know on the back end like our retention is already really high, so retaining a little bit more of the people we're already making in sales, right? Because that's not going to increase sales, right? So anyway, I just think like that's a really good point about looking for it ahead of time, because everybody's going to be telling you this is going to make you more money, this is going to make you more money, and it's like, yeah, it could, but that doesn't mean that it's maximized return for your business. It doesn't mean that that's the best move for you to make just because it could make you more money over time. It's like, yeah, everything everybody teaches could make you more money over time, right? So you just want to make sure you're not like falling into those pitches and like evaluating where my business is now, what would be the best way to bring in more revenue, right? And start making more money. What are the skills I think I need? If everybody's going to your sales page and people aren't buying, then yeah, a copywriting course, right? But if nobody's going to that sales page to begin with, it's like you need to look at lead gen, like either doing some ads or social media or networking or something else, right? So looking at which pieces of the business like aren't working and then making buyer decisions based on that. That's something I learned. I'd love to hear from you guys. I've had some tough finance lessons as my business has grown. What's something you guys wish you had known in the beginning about business, like either business decision making or finances or money or any of that stuff? What's something you're like, gosh, I wish like I had realized that in the beginning? I can tell you guys one of mine if you want.
I've got one.
Oh, you got one? Okay.
Yeah, I've got one. So in the beginning, I made some what people would call really risky decisions with my finances. And I didn't realize why it worked so well until I didn't have it in my life anymore. And then I just didn't realize why it wasn't working anymore on certain things. And that was investing in mentorship. For me, that was huge. I invested in a mentor, and I invested actually in 3 different programs at the same time. One of them, I went to school and I was like, oh, to be able to sell this, I have to get a degree or a certification in social media marketing and digital advertising, or no one will want to hire me. Not true. I didn't finish it because I actually jumped into, that one was $2,000. I jumped into like a video marketing course, which was $500. And then I also jumped into a mastermind that was $10,000. And that was a lot of money for me at the time. I just fixed my credit and I just gotten approved for like the biggest credit card that I actually felt like I was stealing when they gave it to me, because it was like so much money. It was like 20,000 or something. And I was like, I felt like I was stealing when they sent it to me. But so I jumped into that mastermind at 10,000, and it completely changed my life to have mentorship, like not just a DIY course, but actual mentorship, somebody just helping to guide me and like shortening the distance to the finish line. Cause it's like, I would look at it and it's a marathon. They would look at it and it's a sprint, and they would show me how it could be a sprint. And I didn't realize that. I actually jumped back from I jumped into some other masterminds and some other mentorships, and they just weren't really mentorship. They were more like, it was more like DIY with group discussion, which is not the same. And when I jumped into those, like I didn't realize why stuff wasn't working for me until I got back into mentorship again. And then I was just like, oh my God, like I've needed this. This is why this works so well and why I grew so fast. Like you were talking about your fast growth. It's like you grow so fast because you've got a shorter distance. I don't know if you had mentorship or not, but I would assume that
I invest a lot in education. Yeah.
Yeah, that you had something that was like helping to shorten the gap for you. And I think just not being afraid to invest. And I actually hired somebody for ads in my second year of business. And that was a $10,000 learning lesson because I got shit from it. Like I got big fat goose eggs from that. And that was a $10,000 lesson. And it's like, I was like, well, I'm glad I learned it. And it was only $10,000 and not $100,000 lesson. You know? Like, I just got to make those mistakes.
Yeah, we were talking about this in the mastermind the other night, but I was talking about you guys, like when you're making those investment decisions, you want to invest. I like that you're saying like, don't be afraid. And we were talking about like investing in alignment with like what you're nervous system can handle, right? So I also like went into debt when I started my business. I also put $12,000 on a credit card for different courses, different programs and things I wanted to do. But I had a plan to pay that off. Like if the business didn't take off, I knew how long it would take me and I knew what it would cost me. And I also was like I was like pretty regulated to not having any money, right? Because I had been broke my whole life. Like I had lived in poverty, right? So to me, like that wasn't scary to me. Like I wasn't freaked out about it. I wasn't overwhelmed, right? And then I'll have other people come in the mastermind and they've spent all this money on their business and they're totally just like their nervous system can't handle the amount that they've invested and they're overwhelmed. They're like in fight or flight all the time. They're doing weird stuff in their business. They're making weird pivots, weird decisions. Their belief is like roller coastering up and down. And it's a really hard place to be. So I think figuring out like, and I like that you said, like, yeah, that was a $10,000 lesson. I never make investments in the business that I can't afford to lose. Like, you have to know what the worst case scenario is. And if you're not willing to live through that, you don't make that investment. Right. And so I always look at what's the best case, like what is the best possible outcome I think I could get from this investment, and what's the worst case, right? And it's like the worst case sometimes is like you don't get any return, right? There's a lot of investments in business that are very risky. I think all of us will tell you we have not gotten 100% ROI on every investment we've made, certainly not, right? And so it's like you're not guaranteed an ROI. And if you don't get that, like, can you live with the consequences? You want to know what the consequences are and then be like, yeah, I can live with that. Like, I know what that'll be. I'm sure that was painful to lose $10,000, right? It's still painful.
It's not still okay. Painful. I would say it's not. Like I grew and I love it now because it was a part of my journey that brought me here. And I'm not the only one who makes investment decisions like that. You said it, we're not going to get 100% ROI. Like the majority of the investments are actually a negative 100% ROI, negative 100. and then you'll have the few that you do invest in that are actually the like 500 or 1,000%
change the trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And like my business has always worked too, where it's like we're kind of at one level and then all of a sudden it's not like steady growth. It's like for me, it's always been like pretty significant jumps, and it's like, oh, we just make this now. Like, what is happening, right? And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think like you can get, even if you made some investments, you don't get a return. Like that doesn't mean you don't ever invest again. You just like look at, why didn't we get a return? Try to like learn, like you were saying, learn the lesson, make better buyer decisions. What about you, Katie?
Man, I have so much to say. No, it's kind of just piggybacking off of what both of you said. It's just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the times that it's worked for me is always when it feels like slightly pukey, when you have that but like, and that actually I got this. Like, but the ones that are like, there's no way, this is too good to be true, like whatever, but you just have that like need for somebody else to come and fix your problems, or like, oh, this Facebook ad is going to completely change my, like, no, nothing works like that. Like when somebody's trying to sell you that like magic pill, and they're working off of the FOMO, they're working off of the scarcity, they're telling you you can't do it without them or whatever, like that's not going to work. But if it's like you do your homework, you vet whoever it is that you're going to invest in, or the program that you're going to invest in, or the tool that you're going to invest in, you do your homework, you do the research, you vet them, you get referrals and all that, and it just feels kind of like like at the top of the roller coaster, but it's going to be fun. Like that's the way to go. Like that is gonna be 100%.
Yeah. I got one more quick question and then I'll let you guys get out of here. I always look at the numbers I look at every month, or I want to know what our expenses are. Like I want to know how much is going out every month, and I want to know what's projected to come in. So we have a lot of reoccurring revenue, and over the summer, it's been like, sometimes it's like we have more reoccurring coming in than our expenses, but over the summer, right, it was like, there's 8,000 coming in, I have 14,000 of expenses going out. I have to make up this gap, right? I'm curious for you guys, like, are those the main numbers you look at, or like, what are kind of your favorite numbers to look at in your business to kind of gauge where you're at financially?
I keep it simple. I think my business is not as big as either of you guys. I'm very like, I mostly have one-on-one and I have a group program and I have, I just have my simple money in, money out. I always take a look at like whose contracts are coming up for renewal, like if I can cut something out. And if it's like right now, like I already know what's up for August, September, October, like for the rest of the year, but it's like for January, like I'm like, okay, I need to start doing things now to get things where they need to be for January. So it's like, it's not so much like looking in the moment, like you were talking about this before. It's like more looking at like, okay, what are the things I need to be doing in August for January to be moving along really well. And so I keep it, I'm easy. Like
I
I'm
love
really
that.
simple.
I like what Cierra said too, like when you were saying about look at the last 3 months. I think in this industry, I think it's becoming less of a thing now, but there was this huge trend where it was like, oh, this much a month, and my $30,000 month, and my $20,000 month. And I, for a long time, was like always looking at like our monthly, trying to have our biggest month every month. And I was just like straight on the fast track to like Burnout USA. And I was like making my team insane, right? So, because I'm like, we gotta like, I'm like grinding really hard every month and then starting over at the beginning of every month to do it again, right? And like you were saying, I think like looking out further, like when you're in business, sometimes you have to look up, like look at January, like where do you want to be in January and what do you have to have happen? And then look at like your money further out too. Don't just look at the last month, look at the last 12 months, look at the last 3 months, like look at things like overall. Because I think a lot of times when we're just starting, we get really zoomed in right here, and it's like take a minute every once in a while and just look up. I think that's like good advice. And what about you, Cierra? What numbers do you kind of look at in your business? Do you have like a favorite number you look at, or what's kind of in your mind when you're looking at your finance stuff?
So we learned when my husband joined the military, he joined later in life. We already had 3 kids at the time. And he was taught by a mentor who was a millionaire and still in the military. Like he was a millionaire because of investments, but still in the military. And so he like took my husband under his wing and was teaching him about finances for the first time. And we went through Dave Ramsey's course too. And so like first thing is like I IDGAF about debt. The only reason that I care about like paying down my debts right now is because we're trying to qualify for a jumbo loan to get into a much bigger house than we've ever done before. So like that's the only reason. But so as long as I can make the payments on debt, for example, I try to make whatever the like, because we have a lot of credit cards. I have a lot. Like I don't really care about, like, it doesn't say anything bad about me. I like to leverage other people's money. And so we have like whatever the minimum required payment is, we go and we look at the amount that they charge in interest. And so I just make sure to pay at least double that. And then if I know that I want to use the card for other things, I'll pay whatever amount that I know I'm going to use for the month. And we try to keep it under a certain percentage usage. So I look at making sure we're paying down that. And then we also have accounts like on our personal side. We had set it up to where we have like a grocery account. We have a fixed expenses account that all of our regular household expenses that are monthly, the same every single month, come out of. And we transfer an exact amount of money into that one. We have a variable expenses account, and then we have a savings for our main savings. And then we have like a vehicle savings that is just to take care of our vehicles because we know for sure that those pop up. And then we each have our own personal like slush fund kind of accounts. So that's the way we set up our personal side. So we brought that over into the business side, and I have an income only account, and that's what we have on our personal side as well. We have an income only account that no expenses get charged out of, so that there can't be like one thing increases the price of something without me knowing, and then suddenly they charge more and I wasn't expecting it. So they can't just pull that out of there. So we have an income only account. We have a fixed account. And then I have savings and what we pay team out of. I have an account for what we pay team out of. And those are the different accounts that we have. And I just make sure, rather than trying to nitpick over the exact dollar amount, I always fudge it a little bit. And so if our expenses are under 1,000 that come out of fixed, I'll just make sure that at the end of every month, we have at least 1,000 or like maybe two months worth of expenses in there. So we'll just make sure that every month when we're transferring money over, we just make sure it's at least at the threshold of 2,000. And so that's kind of how I look at that. And then I just make sure that I get paid what I want to get paid. You know,
yeah.
It's like if I decide that I want to increase my like amount that I pay myself. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. This is my paycheck now. And I just let my team know so that they're tracking it. Like whoever is having to deal with finances, like this is what my pay is now. So make sure I get paid that. And then we're good. We're golden. So yeah, that's kind of what I look at. I could nitpick over expenses and stuff like that. And every once in a while, I think I review that on a quarterly basis. I review the expenses on a quarterly basis rather than month over month, because it's just like, I feel like that's such a small decision. And like, there's other decisions that I feel are bigger. And the other thing I review on a quarterly basis when it comes to finances is like, how much am I charging for my services? And at the price point that I'm charging, are people getting the best results? Like, so should we adjust the amount so that the right people can get in and get the best results? Because I'm always looking for, I'm very results focused. And so I'm always looking for making sure people are getting the best results.
Yeah, that's a good point too. When we're talking about increasing income, is like, are you delivering the things like you're already selling? Like, I think that's a good thing to look at. And like, how can you make it better? And it's a process, right? You have to start where you are, right? I'm sure Cierra's like a lot better at getting results now than she was when she first started. And you just get better and better and better. Like, and you're going to be better in 10 years, right? So you can always start where you are and improve. But I do think like delivering to your customers is a extremely important business strategy, right? So that way you can get referrals and you can get repeat customers. You need a lot less new leads that way, right? So thank you guys so much for coming and sharing your time and your expertise with us. I really, really appreciate you guys. Can you just one more time just say who you are and where we can find you, just for anybody that jumped on, and shout out your freebie one more time, just for anybody that just came on the live.
Hey, I'm Katie. Thanks for having me. I'm on Instagram. It's at IamKatieLU. And I have the Get Your Shit Together Summer, where you just get 30 days of actions for your business. I just tell you what to do. It's a good time. If you need a little kick in the pants for getting stuff done, that's where to go.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys go follow Katie and get her freebie. And then what about you, Cierra?
My name is Cierra Lueck. It's CIERRALUECK. You can go to my website. I have all of my socials on there. I'm primarily on Facebook. So if you want to see any of the free trainings that I put out or any of that other kind of stuff, you can go there. I have so much on Facebook, including a Facebook group. Sometimes that changes, which is why I'm not sharing what Facebook group is right now. Because sometimes I'm like, we're going to start a new group. We're going to burn everything to the ground and start a new one.
Find Cierra on Facebook and she'll tell you where the new group is.
Yeah. So that being said, if you want something free, you can actually get it from my website, or you can reach out to me and start a conversation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. But the viral questions, if you want to get traction today with your target market, like I'm talking 100 to 300 comments, very first time ever posting a viral question, you can get that immediately. Like that is the results that hundreds of people have gotten from downloading this and using it. And so it's got 80 viral question templates, and I've got a training on the ones that get high engagement, the ones that actually nurture, and then the ones that can actually convert people into immediate sales conversations. So you get that when you download that. It's a freebie that I have on my website, or pay what it's worth. Like you can pay something if you want to. That's also on the website, but like it's a freebie that you guys can have. So if you want that, feel free to reach out.
What's your website?
CierraLueck.com. So okay, that's why I spelled my name, but I'll spell it one more time.
Yeah, do it one more time.
CIERRALUECK.
Awesome. And we'll put the links for you guys in the show notes and on the blog and on wherever you guys are watching this. We'll put the links for everything. But thank you guys so much for being here. I'm Faith Mariah. This is Business Power Hour. You can find the replays from all the past episodes. We've had some really great panel conversations on this show. So go to faithmariah.com. If you click on the blog, that's actually just Power Hour episodes that I made into a blog. So you guys can find all the old episodes there. We have a lot of great conversations here. Watch your email for the upcoming episodes because we have some really great guests coming on. Thank you guys so much. I so appreciate both of you. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay.